This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Greetings and welcome to This Week in Connecticut. I'm Dennis House. One of the busiest travel weekends of the year is upon us, and Connecticut's highways are more dangerous than ever before. Plus, the U.S. Senate race and strong criticism by one candidate and honoring America's veterans. But we begin this Sunday morning with the heartbreak in Uvalde, Texas. Horror inside an elementary school, something all too familiar for families here in Connecticut. And once again, a demand for action. Unthinkable terror inside an elementary school in Texas.
When he sees the students and our teacher, that's when he starts shooting at the window.
Nearly 24 killed, many just 10 years old.
She was the best person that I know, full of life, gone too soon.
And their heroic teachers who gave their lives to protect them.
I've just never seen anyone quite so dedicated.
And now, heartbreak and anger.
When is it enough? And what the hell is it going to take to stop this?
Our kids are living in fear every single time they set foot in a classroom because they think they're going to be next. What are we doing?
As those who've lived through the horrors of a mass shooting once again demand action.
I know exactly what those parents are going through, and you bring your child to school with a book bag and they leave in a body bag. It's not the way it should be. It's not the way it has to be.
Let's start doing what we can do to prevent these from happening.
And this whole prayers without action, that's empty, that is hollow. You are failing our families and our nation.
And joining us now to lend some perspective into what happened in Texas is JT Lewis. He lost his brother Jesse in the Sandy Hook shooting. And JT, good to see you here. I know we've interviewed you before, and congratulations on your graduation from UConn.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about just what was your reaction when you heard the news about what happened in Texas?
Yeah, well, obviously the similarities between what happened in Texas and what happened in Sandy Hook are pretty striking. I remember on that day, for me, all those memories of being in the Sandy Hook firehouse came back, and I was just thinking about those parents in Texas who were waiting for their loved ones to come out of the school, and as the day dwindled on and the hours got longer and longer, their loved one did not come out of that school. And I'd been through that, and I wanted to do this interview today because I wanted to, on the off chance that this gets to one of those families in Texas, just let them know that although it's really dark right now, it's the darkest moment of your life, there's hope. And someone came to us early on and gave us that message, and that was incredibly powerful. There is hope. You will be happy again. It doesn't feel like it right now. But in Sandy Hook, almost every family that lost a loved one that day has started an organization or a charity, a nonprofit, aimed at making other people's lives better. And through that work, they've found hope and peace in the darkest moment of their lives. And when the time is right for them, I know they're not thinking about that today, but we'll be here to support the families in Texas.
Let's talk a little bit about what should be done to prevent future school shootings. In your judgment, what can lawmakers do? What should they do?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would start with the media. And I know this one was, as I said, very similar to Sandy Hook. And I don't know if it was a copycat shooting, and those are prevalent in society these days. There's dark room online message boards where the shooter in Sandy Hook has gained some popularity, as crazy as that sounds. And so I don't know. I'm going to wait for the facts to come out to make that assessment. But it is on the media to keep the name and image of these shooters out of the limelight. I didn't come here to get political, but I will say, obviously, you want to ask about gun control. We have 350 million people in the country, and we have more guns than people, right? Guns aren't going anywhere. It's something that I think I came to terms with right after Sandy Hook when I saw the politicians get up and argue their points. Gun control, if we win this election, we promise we'll make it different. That was 10 years ago. I mean, it's not something that they can tackle. But that doesn't mean, and of course I support the Second Amendment, but we shouldn't have to trade our safety for our freedoms, right? There are things we can do, and that means keeping kids safe in schools, keeping citizens safe when they're in grocery stores. It means being as safe as you are when you walk into a bank or an airport, or if you're a politician in a federal building. I think our children deserve that level of safety.
What do you think about armed guards at schools?
Well, so I'm waiting for the facts to come out in this Texas case, and it sounds like there might have been someone there who didn't go inside, and that was the same thing in Parkland. And so in the case of Sandy Hook, there was no one there to meet the shooter, and so he just went on a rampage, and there was nothing that could be done. No one can stand up to a guy with a gun if you're unarmed. It's very difficult. And so obviously every instance is unique, and of course, if I could go back and do it again, I would have loved to have a guy with a gun in Sandy Hook protecting the students, an armed guard or police officer.
What is your message to parents watching today who are worried about perhaps a shooting at their kids' school?
My message is, you know, this is something that I figured out, and it took me a little while. We're always asking for the president or for our senators or for our congresspeople to do something. That's not how it's going to work. It's going to be you, the parents, in your communities, running for school board, talking to other people. These things, it happens at an organic ground level. And it's on every parent. It's your responsibility. By the way, Sandy Hook proved that when kids are at school, they're not their responsibility. They're still the parents' responsibility. So parents, you need to wake up, and we need to do this.
There are others, though, who say that there should be stronger gun control, and you don't support that, correct?
Well, like I said, more guns than people in the country. It's been that way since 1776, right? It's not going anywhere. Guns are a part of our identity. And by the way, COVID has proven how necessary the Second Amendment was. You look at other countries, I mean, I hate to say it, but you look at other countries where government cracked down on their citizens, and that didn't happen here. And I really believe it's because of the Second Amendment, which has kept us free in America. And so, again, as I say, you shouldn't have to trade your safety for your freedom.
There are some who will say, well, 1776 was different. There were muskets, and we were ruled by a king overseas. Things are much different than they are now, and the weapons are much more advanced. Do you believe that certain types of weapons should be banned?
Sure, if they want to go ahead and do that, go ahead and ban assault rifles, whatever you want to call them. They don't have the definition quite down yet, so we can't even have this debate. But what I'm going to say is, if you go around in Texas and you try to take people's guns, it's not going to work. It's just going to lead to more bloodshed. It's just such deeply entrenched into our culture that you can't go around and start taking guns. And so I would never advocate for that, because it's not going to work.
You've had a very interesting history. You obviously met President Obama right after what happened in Sandy Hook, and then you became friends with President Trump when you were running for office as well. Do you think that you want to return to politics and take another stab at it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I got to work on some really cool campaigns and do a lot of great stuff as far as the federal school safety report that I helped President Trump write. And I think that was really good. And of course, now I think that's a thing of the past, anything that happened under President Trump. It's just unfortunate, because a lot of the things that were in the federal school safety report would have prevented this tragedy.
J.T. Lewis, always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for your insight on this.
Of course.
More reaction to this week's horrific school shooting in Texas coming up at 10:30 on Capitol Report. But for now, I want to take a moment to remember the victims. Nearly 24 lives lost way too soon, many of them only 10 years old.